A home security camera usually offers protection from intruders. But what if that intruder is a being usually encountered in science fiction books and movies? One Florida man may have witnessed just that. It's 2006 in Pensacola, Florida. David Eckhart is asleep in his bedroom. A closed-circuit camera mounted above the bed captures the room bathed in a soft yellow light coming from an open door. Suddenly, the camera picks up something alarming. A short, skinny humanoid figure begins slowly peeking out from behind the open door. David does not stir from his sleep as little by little, the figure creeps further into the doorway, revealing a bizarrely slender leg, seemingly just a few inches in diameter, then an oblong head and eventually its whole body.
I backed and forth until I found it, and then that's what it showed me, and I showed my son. He's like, got these tears coming to his eyes. No way.
It resembles otherworldly beings commonly described as greys, and this apparently wasn't the first time David has seen one.
Eckhart had his first alien encounter while he was camping in the 80s, and that seems to have kicked off a slew of encounters that have occurred ever since then. And so that's why he has security camera footage of his bedroom, because he's hoping to catch these creatures that are visiting him on camera.
David wouldn't be the first to report repeated visits from extraterrestrials.
It's very rare that I have found an individual that has only had one experience. Invariably, there were multiple experiences, often dating back to childhood.
The most famous report of an alien encounter may have been that of Betty and Barney Hill in 1961. But they certainly weren't the first. The earliest may have come over a century ago.
One of the earliest attempted alien abductions supposedly took place in Stockton, California in 1896. Two men were out riding their horses when they encountered three fuzzy alien creatures. When one of them tried to lift one of the men and found that he couldn't, all three of them beat feet back to their ship and took off.
According to one poll, about 3.7 million people believe they've experienced an alien abduction. With so many reported ET encounters, is it possible that one has finally been filmed? Let's make first contact with our experts. First, Michael Primo searches for signs this figure was digitally inserted into the security footage, but couldn't find anything suspicious.
From the analysis of these shadows, I didn't detect any major red flags.
Anthropologist Kathy Strange sees some definite similarities between this figure and the most common description of greys.
I was doing some calculations, and the doorway itself is roughly, on average, 6.5 feet tall. And so the height of the creature is roughly 3 feet tall, which kind of fits the description of what a gray would be. The skin color is definitely gray, so that matches. It's very, very thin.
But one thing doesn't quite match.
They're supposed to have very large, dark eyes, almost unnatural in its size. And as you can see for this, even though it's very grainy film, you can't see those large eyes. And I would expect, since that would be the largest feature of its face, that we should be able to see that.
So even if the aliens known as greys exist, this isn't one of them. The 3-foot height could indicate it's just a child. But Stray notices one other red flag in regards to the figure's size.
You'll notice above its head, even though it's so small, there is a shadow quite a bit higher than him, roughly in this area. The significance of that shadow is it implies that there's a larger person standing behind it.
Okay, based on the appearance of this shadow right up here, we're gonna say that this is an inanimate object, like a mannequin or doll being pushed from behind into the doorframe. We'll take the witness's word. He says he didn't move the object, but it does not appear that this particular encounter was of extraterrestrial origin. It was your average December day in Siberia's Amur region. Temps below zero, 2 feet of snow, and many more trees than people. According to local reports, a man was out just walking his dog.
And ultimately, they stumble across this strange 3-foot creature lying in the snow. It was missing a limb. It had a sort of a dark grayish skin color, no hair or sort of noticeable facial features to recognize.
Let's freeze on that. Notice how the thing's head is tilted in an odd way, as if it was speaking or screaming before it died. The people filming are convinced it's an alien, And here's the really wild thing. This might not even be the first like this to appear in Russia.
In 1996, a local woman discovered a strange creature in the wilderness. It was nicknamed Alashenka by the media, but according to the woman, the creature was still alive when she discovered it.
Siberia is also the site of the famous 1908 Tunguska meteor strike. It leveled 80 million trees over 830 square miles, though some believe it wasn't a meteor at all, but a crashed alien spaceship. So is this latest video proof of alien life? Let's check with our experts. We first speak to field biologist Lucy Eckersley. The first question, could this creature be some kind of tragically malformed person?
I immediately can tell this isn't human because it's very small, and it also doesn't have the formed chin and cranium of a human. Its head is a very different shape.
Okay, we're not looking at a human. But Eckersley finds a clue to suggest it may be one of our cousins. Look closely at those arms.
My first thought is maybe this is a primate, something that has really long arms for reaching through and swinging from trees, something like a squirrel monkey.
Of course, squirrel monkeys are native to the tropics of South America. So how could it be in Siberia? Could it have escaped from a zoo? That's a mystery, but one that forensic investigator Chase Klotsky thinks she can solve quickly.
There's, no gore, there's no liquid.
For Klotsky, that's a red flag. The scene is missing important details of a recently deceased flesh and blood creature.
You would expect to see something, whether it's, alien blood or fluids, or even some sort of pus.
And if this alien just survived a crash, you'd never know it from the video.
There was no debris, there were no scorch marks, there was nothing. The snow was pristine. After studying the video, there was just so many things wrong with it. I don't like it, I'll be honest with you.
So what is it? Not only does a squirrel monkey in the middle of Siberia not make sense, but it's really the lack of any gory details that just doesn't feel right. So we're going with Chase on this one. The Russian alien corpse is a hoax. Clearly, some people can't get enough alien corpse footage, even though it drives the serious UFO researchers nuts. We just call them as we see them. July 2018, Portsmouth, England. A resident of the town is having a small problem with pests, but when she goes to check an ant trap, she finds this.
Oh my God, I've never seen anything like it. It's disgusting.
Look closer. The internet is buzzing with claims this is some kind of potato creature. But looking at the ant trap, it looks like an awfully small potato to us. Observe how it resembles an undulating corn dog.
What is it? An alien.
The really strange thing about this creature is this long, rat-like tail. That is something that I've never seen, admittedly, on a caterpillar, grub, larva, or anything else. It's like a potato with a long tail.
And keep in mind, this tailed potato is being filmed in a country crawling with strange sightings. One example, the Canvey Island monster of 1953.
It was described as being about 4 feet long, with bulging eyes, appendages that appeared to be sort of long, gangly legs. There was all types of theories and speculation, ranging from an unknown deep-sea creature, humanoid in appearance, to some type of extraterrestrial or alien.
The Canvey Island monster is now considered to have actually been a monkfish. But back to our crawling potato. And an interesting fact, the day this creature was filmed, there was a total lunar eclipse. Could there be a connection? Some people believed in the Middle Ages that lunar eclipses were caused by magicians or moon-hungry monsters.
Interestingly enough, there are theorists who speculate that celestial events, such as eclipses, often coincide with the appearance of interdimensional creatures, beings, entities, and apparitions that are not of this world, somehow stepping from another dimension or through a portal into our reality.
A totally eclipsed moon is sometimes called a blood moon for its reddish color and can last for nearly 2 hours. So what is this thing? And where did it come from? We asked the experts to hash it out.
An alien? Oh my God. It's disgusting.
I
can totally understand why she thinks it looks like an alien. It's really bizarre looking. It looks like something that most people haven't seen.
Wildlife biologist Stephanie Shuttler begins her analysis by considering that ant trap seen at the top of the video. Might this be an actual potato or other object being carried by the ant colony the homeowner was trying to kill off? Ants are so powerful that they can carry objects 5,000 times heavier than their own body mass.
People might think this is ants moving a large potato, but you can see the body vibrate. So something internally is definitely causing that. It's not just a solid shape being moved along the ground. It itself is moving. And we can really see it when it goes around the corner. It actually bends its body. You can see the body move like a caterpillar. You can see the movements along the entire body.
Our experts think this creature is about a few inches long, so a pretty small potato. What about a caterpillar or worm then? There are about 1 million different species of worms ranging from microscopic in size to one in Australia that was 2 feet long.
This could be some sort of a worm, but the thing about it that's really weird is it has a tail. Worms don't really have this distinct tail like we're seeing in this video.
For Shuttler, that unnerving tail narrows the options because there's really only one animal that matches. A critter that can cause intestinal infections in humans. It's nothing you want in your home.
This is a rat-tailed maggot, the larval stage of a dronefly. So they are born in ponds and they have these tail-like things that help them breathe above the water. They're in really stagnant ponds. The tail is a siphon that helps them get oxygen, and then eventually they'll turn into a dronefly, which resembles a bee.
Although we've never seen anything like it and never want to see it again, that telltale tail does it for us. Our verdict? This is a rat-tailed maggot. Joe, don't make me look at that thing again. It's July 2014 in the Indian state of Chhattisgarh, where there are a number of caves and paintings made by hunter-gatherer populations going back as far as 10,000 years. Archaeologist J.R. Bagad claims he recently made a unique discovery here.
और ये शैल चित्र में जो है लगभग 10,000 वर्ष पुराने आदिम मानवों के द्वारा निर्मित में शैल चित्र है.
While giving a tour to reporters, Bagad shows a rock face on which there are half a dozen dark red and yellow painted beings standing together in a group.
In this particular painting, which looks quite strange, we have some individuals with larger heads, different colored arms and hands, and they don't look like the other people depicted on these cave walls. So we have a lot of people believing that the ancient humans who painted these drawings were actually painting images of aliens from another world.
The theory that these are depictions of extraterrestrials is bolstered by another painting of what appears to be a mechanical-looking disc painted on the cave ceiling.
It resembles a saucer-shaped object, which became kind of the pop cultural representation of UFOs in the 1950s and 60s.
These aren't the only ancient representations of allegedly extraterrestrial beings.
We also have a number of other ancient civilizations who have created similar things. For instance, we have the Wajina figures in a rock shelter in Australia. We also have petroglyphs in Capitol Reef State Park here in the United States.
Let's take another look at this disc-shaped object from India. These 3 lines, right here, again right here, and right here, have alternately been described as beams or legs of a tripod, and these apparent portholes, right here and right here, match with contemporary representations of alien spacecraft. So what can our experts unearth about this peculiar cave art? First, anthropologist Kathy Strange says these ancient drawings must have marked a significant event or encounter.
They're not just doodles. Cave walls are very valuable. So for them to paint this, it must have been something important to them as a people. They're trying to represent something that they want to pass on to the next generation.
These bulbous-headed figures do indeed resemble the humanoid depictions of aliens that eventually dominated in the 20th century. So a connection seems possible. However, archaeologist Ed Barnhart believes they are documentation of a different kind of cosmic trip.
These ancient cultures relied upon people called shamans who would typically go into altered states of consciousness to receive information, and those were induced by hallucinogenic drugs or starvation or sleep deprivation. What they painted on the walls were their experiences they were having during their hallucinogenic trances. In those caves, they would feel like they're floating outside of their body, and they would show themselves elongated and the floor falling out below them.
It's not that the figures' heads were extra large, but that the bodies were stretched as they felt they were floating up. And as for the UFO-like object, that's also more likely something else from the heavens.
Instead of it being a beam from an alien ship, it actually is just sun rays, and they're projecting that the sun is at its full potential, probably noon, right above your head. There's other examples in the general area in India and other places in the world that show a very similar object.
Our verdict? These well-preserved Indian rock paintings are most likely the work of shamans from prehistoric hunter-gatherer societies who made them while in an altered state of consciousness. Even if these ancient artists weren't seeing aliens, they were definitely experiencing something truly out of this world.